Every weekend, across thousands of football pitches, the same scene plays out. A player attempts something ambitious, a through ball that doesn't quite make it, a skill move that ends with the ball rolling to an opponent, a shot that flies over the crossbar, and immediately the shouting begins. Teammates throw their hands up in frustration. Coaches bark instructions about playing it safe. Parents on the sideline shake their heads in disappointment. The player shrinks. The next time a similar opportunity arises, they choose the simple pass, the safe option, the predictable play. Another potentially great footballer has been conditioned to fear failure, and with it, they've lost the very thing that could have made them exceptional. This is the hidden epidemic destroying football talent at every level. Not poor technique, not lack of fitness, not tactical ignorance. The systematic elimination of boldness through the fear of making mistakes. Players are being programmed to avoid the very experiences that would accelerate their development faster than any training drill or tactical session ever could. Here's what nobody wants to acknowledge about football development. The players who reach the highest levels aren't the ones who make the fewest mistakes. They're the ones who've made the most mistakes and learned to weaponize them. Every elite player has a graveyard of failed attempts behind their success. The difference is how they process those failures. Watch any professional match, and you'll see something remarkable. The best players on the pitch are constantly attempting things that don't work. Messi loses the ball more than most players because he attempts more than most players. Neymar gets tackled frequently because he's always probing for the impossible pass or the audacious skill. Kevin De Bruyne's passing statistics show numerous incomplete passes because he's always searching for the killer ball that others wouldn't even see. The amateur player sees these failures as mistakes to be avoided. The elite player sees them as data to be processed. Each unsuccessful attempt provides crucial information about timing, space, defensive positioning, and decision-making that no coach could ever teach in a classroom setting. Modern football culture has created a generation of players who are terrified of individual expression. Youth systems prioritize avoiding mistakes over creating breakthrough moments. Coaches measure success by possession statistics rather than creative attempts. Parents celebrate the player who never loses the ball over the one who creates dangerous situations. This systematic suppression of risk-taking creates technically sound but creatively bankrupt players. They can execute predetermined patterns flawlessly, but crumble when faced with unique situations that require improvisation. They become football robots, efficient but predictable, safe but forgettable. The irony is devastating. The very failures that coaches and parents try to eliminate are the experiences that would transform average players into exceptional ones. Every mistake contains lessons that successful plays simply cannot provide. Every failure builds mental resilience that comfortable success never develops. Every moment of adversity creates character that smooth sailing never forges. The revolutionary shift happens when failure stops being something that happens to you and becomes something you actively pursue for growth. Elite performers in every field understand this principle. They don't just accept failure as inevitable. They seek it out as the fastest path to improvement. In football terms, this means completely redefining what constitutes a successful training session or match performance. Success isn't measured by how few mistakes you make, but by how many meaningful attempts you undertake. A player who tries 5 ambitious through balls and completes 2 has learned more about timing and defensive reading than a player who makes 20 safe sideways passes. This mindset transformation requires understanding that football improvement happens at the edge of your current capabilities. If you're not regularly failing at things, you're not challenging yourself sufficiently. You're operating in your comfort zone, which by definition means you're not growing. The player who becomes comfortable with the temporary discomfort of failure gains access to accelerated learning that the safety-first player will never experience. They develop resilience, creativity, and problem-solving abilities that become their greatest competitive advantages. Neuroscience reveals why failure is such a powerful learning accelerator. When things go wrong, your brain releases stress hormones that heighten attention and memory formation. The moments after a mistake are when your neural pathways are most receptive to new information and pattern recognition. Successful plays feel good, but provide limited learning opportunities because everything worked as expected. Failed attempts create cognitive tension that forces your brain to analyze what went wrong, explore alternative approaches, and develop new solutions. This neurological response to failure literally rewires your brain to become more adaptable and creative. Players who embrace this biological reality gain a massive developmental advantage. While others are avoiding the discomfort of failure, they're actively seeking the enhanced learning states that only come from pushing beyond their current limitations. They're upgrading their football intelligence through experiences that comfortable players never encounter. The pathway to using failure as fuel requires developing specific mental skills that most players never cultivate. The first is emotional regulation during setbacks. When a risky play doesn't work, the natural response is frustration, embarrassment, or self-doubt. These emotional reactions prevent learning and make players less likely to attempt similar plays in the future. Developing failure resilience means training yourself to respond to mistakes with curiosity rather than judgment. Instead of thinking, "That was stupid," the mindset becomes, "That's interesting. What can that teach me?" This subtle shift in internal dialogue transforms every failure from a source of shame into a source of valuable information. The second skill is maintaining confidence through adversity. One failed attempt doesn't mean you're not good enough to try again. 3 failed attempts doesn't mean you should stop being ambitious. Elite players understand that breakthrough moments often come after a series of near misses, and they maintain their willingness to attempt difficult plays regardless of recent outcomes. Implementing this failure-embracing mindset requires revolutionizing how you approach training. Instead of drilling techniques until they become automatic, start deliberately practicing at the edge of your capabilities where failure is not just possible, but probable. Set training goals based on attempt quality rather than success rates. Aim to try 10 ambitious passes per session, rather than complete 20 safe ones. Focus on attempting skills in pressure situations, rather than perfecting them in isolation. Create scenarios where failure is the expected outcome initially, then gradually improve through repeated exposure to challenging conditions. This approach transforms training from a place where you demonstrate existing abilities into a laboratory where you develop new ones. Every training session becomes an opportunity to expand your comfort zone, rather than reinforce your current limitations. Transitioning this mindset from training to actual matches requires courage that most players never develop. The fear of letting teammates down or facing criticism keeps players locked in predictable patterns during games when the stakes feel higher. The breakthrough comes from understanding that your primary responsibility isn't to avoid mistakes, but to create possibilities that others cannot. A winger who never loses the ball because they never take on defenders is actually less valuable than one who beats their opponent 60% of the time, despite failing 40% of attempts. Match situations become opportunities to test your developing skills under real pressure, rather than chances to prove you're already perfect. This perspective shift removes the burden of needing to succeed every time, and replaces it with the excitement of discovering what you're capable of when you push your boundaries. The players who embrace failure as fuel develop differently than their safety-first peers. They become comfortable with uncertainty, skilled at improvisation, and mentally resilient under pressure. These qualities compound over time, creating exponential rather than linear improvement curves. More importantly, they develop an identity as problem solvers rather than mistake avoiders. When faced with new challenges, their instinct is to experiment and adapt rather than retreat to familiar patterns. This makes them invaluable to teams and attractive to coaches who understand that football's biggest moments require players willing to attempt what others won't. The choice is simple, but not easy. Continue avoiding failure and accept the limitations that come with playing it safe, or embrace the temporary discomfort of mistakes in exchange for the accelerated growth that only comes from pushing boundaries. Every failed attempt is a deposit in your development account. Every mistake is a lesson your competitors are too afraid to learn. Every moment of adversity is strengthening your ability to perform when others crumble under pressure. The question isn't whether you'll face failure in football. The question is whether you'll use it to become everything you're capable of becoming, or let it convince you to become less than you could be. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe, like this video, and to comment down below what you learnt most from this video. And as always, enjoy the beautiful game.